Closed session, and at this time, no action was taken from the closed session meeting, and
Those
we're
were
all
for
back.
you had two closed sessions, so those were for both closed sessions?
We had two closed sessions, and we took no action on either one.
Great. So you could actually adjourn the special meeting.
Well, we did it 5 up, but you want me to adjourn in public session? Let's adjourn the closed.
Yeah.
Oh, we're already closed.
Well, technically, just do it again.
Okay. So, just to repeat, we'll close the closed session, which is now closed.
Maybe the brain surgery is.
No,
Was needed.
you're adjourning the special meeting.
Adjourning
You
the
already came out of
special
the closed
meeting.
session.
Oh,
Sorry,
good,
I'm
all right.
sorry, I was confused.
So the special session is
Yeah, so
closed,
now
yeah.
that- yeah,
All right,
exactly.
so how about we open the public meeting and start that one?
Works.
All right. Joanne, could you do a roll call?
course.
Make sure we're all here
Yes.
in spirit, if not
Director
mentally.
Coverdell,
Present.
Vice President Feldman, Director Michelson,
Yes, and.
Director
that's- what's
Glassberg
his-
is absent,
yeah,
so President Reynolds.
Exactly, what's his name? All right, Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
All right.
Can you sign?
Do we have any public
Give me one
comments
sign.
to be submitted?
I knew you liked it.
Nope.
All right, seeing no public comments, we'll charge bravely ahead. Do any directors wish to pull anything from the consent calendar? And
I just thought it was important to note that the financial planning seems to be working in our favor. We're beginning to live up to insurance as we had hoped. So I don't think it has
They're
to
on
be
there.
pulled for that
But yours
as
is
long as
all right,
the House
perfect.
feels that.
Then let's.
And I would move we approve the consent calendar as.
All right,
I second it.
all right. Chris,
You were
any
the-
thoughts?
You were the.
Charge ahead with the consent calendar.
Charge ahead.
All right, Joanne.
Yes, Director
But you should
Coverdell.
Tell me it was okay.
Oh,
Ken, that's you.
I reviewed the financial
Right.
Yes, we.
report
Yep,
and I
thank
approved
you.
it.
All right, Ken,
Yes.
Thank you. Vice President Feldman,
Yes.
Director Michelson,
Yes.
Yep.
President Reynolds. Thank
Aye.
you.
All right. Do we have any directors
Good job.
attend a meeting or director comments at this point? All right,
Here.
none here. All right, let's start in with the general business. And we have Packport Consulting as our first agenda item.
Okay. We have El Granada, this is about El Granada Tank 1. During the storms of February, the stacked cement sacks that have somehow retained the bank above the El Granada Tank 1 gave way, allowing the soil to slide down on the tank. You can see some pictures of it here. It slid down against the tank. So that's what it looks like now. We've removed the black plastic that protected that for a while. You can see, you can kind of get the idea in this picture of the height of this embankment here, and it's Isabella Road. I think it's Isabella Road up here, right above. So that fence right there is Isabella Road. There you can see the fence and the road a little bit better. So this is a critical thing for us to get repaired before next winter. And we asked Packport Consulting Group, we have Juben Packport here tonight, to give us a proposal for design of a new structurally adequate retaining wall. Obviously, the cement sacks are, I don't know how, there's no great way to describe them other than sort of a hat. That's the way the district used to do things, which really is not appropriate for us to do under our current, we don't believe in doing things that way now. So Packport Consulting Group has given us a proposal for the design. The design includes a geotechnical analysis, as well as the key part of his structural engineering that's going to be done to design the new retaining wall, which, given the space constraints and the height of that bank, is kind of a challenging project. So you have on page 4 of the POCPOR proposal an outline of costs by task. The total, and this is a time and materials contract, as with every engineering contract, and the total estimated project cost is about $99,000. So we're proposing, if approved, this work would begin immediately. We need to create project documents and get this constructed before the next rainy season. So that's staff's recommendation that we take this approach.
Chris, any thoughts?
Well, I'll follow Director Everett.
Ken, tell us your thoughts.
Well, I don't really know what this wall is going to cost, and, you know, the POC parts here, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name.
Shubin.
Shubin is here, so maybe we could ask Shubin's opinion. Is it appropriate to
Sure.
ask
Yeah.
him a question? How much do you think this retaining wall will cost?
It's really on the first, let me step up here real quick. if
Please,
you don't
yeah,
mind.
please. I don't mind at all.
The first component of what we're gonna do is present the district with some options as far as what retaining walls are, you'd like to look at. So the cost depends on that. So I would estimate between 150 to 250,000 perhaps, depending on what type of retaining system we find. So we're probably going to be using a soldier beam, which is big I-beams that go straight in. Maybe a sole nail wall would work, which is basically putting nails into the wall and retaining the wall that way. The concern about that is there's a public road right behind it, and if the nails start protruding into the public right-of-way, there's easement issues, and also if they come in with a sewer line, sometimes they dig right through the nails, and then we have a problem with our retaining wall. So this is one of those projects where the design fees, as you see, are very disproportionate to the construction costs because of the nature of the project. But it's definitely when I first got the call, it was the retaining wall that I had in my mind wasn't 15 feet high and one-to-one back slope into a public road. There's definitely some challenges on that site. So.
Sure. Well, I couldn't have phrased it better myself. It just seemed to me like this proposal is disproportionate to the cost of what I think that project is going to take. And I guess, you know, having been involved in retaining walls and site construction and engineering and these kinds of things for years, I sort of have somewhat of an idea of the various approaches that would be possible there. You know, basically that public right-of-way has been sitting there on bags of concrete for how many years? 40 years or 50 years? Or, so I really, my initial reaction was I just thought that the proposal was expensive. You know, for me, 50,000 or 60,000 maybe, that would be 20% of the high end of the cost of construction. Seems like it would be appropriate, and so, you know, it was really difficult for me. I just couldn't see $100,000. And it looks to me like we're paying $34,000 to CSEG, and they're really gonna be doing the bulk of this work. I mean, I don't have any problem with topographic survey, I understand that. It would seem like we might have reasonable maps in the district's possession. I mean, you know, we've got all kinds of mapping of our facilities. And I think, you know, there's no question about Romigan doing the soils end in my opinion, I don't see any ability to adjust that. But by the time you add their costs and the structural engineering costs, it just looks really high to me. And, you know, it's within our spending authority, we have the ability, I mean, I think your firm is our selected engineering firm these days. And so I feel really bad for making these comments.
No,
But-
that's, you don't, because you're doing your job, and you're tasked with the fiduciary duties of this district, and you're asking the right questions, and you've never worked with us, and so this absolutely, at first glance, is probably different than what you've seen in the past, and a lot higher from what I hear from your experience, so it's, I could address it, or if there's other questions on that, or,
The upper portion of the budget from 1 through 8, are those are your,
yes,
Costs.
those are.
those are mapped, those are on top of,
Yeah, so these
those are on
52.
top of the other costs.
Yeah.
Yes, that is
That's
correct.
the problem I was having,
Yeah.
same as you. It seems like there's extra, I mean, I am having a problem with trying to understand why, on top of their pretty significant cost of, that we had that as well. So I'm just not sure.
I'm with Ken on this.
So
It's
there's about 44,000, right, 44K for the 3 lower
Yeah, the
People.
outside work.
Yeah.
and 50 above it. And so I just having the same heartburn. It just seems that the oversight cost, which is in a sense what Parkport is doing, is far and exceeds the cost of the guys that are doing this stuff. So I don't know how to articulate that differently. But that was my opinion.
Well, let's hear, I have some comments, but let me hear
Sure.
all, let me hear all the
That's fine.
director questions.
Yeah, I built my own house and about a quarter mile, well, maybe a little over a quarter mile from that site, so it was an uphill lot. So I'm pretty familiar with the soils, soil types, and my house is dug into the mountains. One of my walls interior walls actually is a retaining wall, and I didn't spend that much. I couldn't afford to live in the house if I'd spent this much, I'm sure. So I did my entire foundation for $250,000. And that included engineering, that included, 60, 70 piers, something like, 25,000 in concrete. I mean, it was, yeah, so, I mean, just soft cost, at this amount, without the hard cost on top. It seems high. It definitely seems high. I understand, I'm sure has the county said anything about this yet? Have they expressed a concern about the eventuality, I mean, however far and remote it may be, that the road collapsing? Has the county commented on this? Do they see this as a threat to the road?
I don't think they've thought about it,
Okay.
so we have not
So
heard anything.
So I can
not heard
understand
anything
that, worst case scenario, we impact a county road. I understand it needs to be engineered, I don't know to what factor, but this seems like a factor of 10 plus. It does seem on the higher
Yeah.
side. But again, like my overall comment tends to be about welcome to California and welcome to a state full of lawyers. So your PE stamp is at risk in anything you do. So I don't know what factor, thinking of the Millennium Tower, what factor do you guys build into your projects to keep the lawyers at bay? And ultimately, no disrespect to lawyers,
I was gonna say, hey, how come I'm being brought into this?
but that's the big driver in anything in California. He loses his stamp. He's I don't know what else you can do for a living. So I know that becomes a concern, and really it's always on the backs of our ratepayers. Because I could say, yep, 99,000, no problem, but I'm here representing our 6,000 plus customers, and every dollar counts for something. Anyhow,
I unfortunately, I agree pretty strongly, and I think that hiring a geotechnical is a given. We've got 35,000 for a structural engineer. I'm kind of confused as to whether this is really expensive. And I think part of it is this is kind of our first project working with Packport Consulting, and I feel like if we're gonna spend $100,000 to engineer a $100,000 solution, we're starting our relationship with a gold-plated package that I'm really uncomfortable with, and I feel that if stacked Saccrete bags held up for 25 years, we're sure putting in a NASA engineered retaining wall. I don't know. I'd be pretty excited about spending $25,000 to have the geotechnical done, pay that, have the structural engineer do that, and I'm really confused why this is such a tricky project, because the structural's going to sign off what's strong enough. The geotechnical's going to say how deep the beams need to go to hold this up. The contractor's going to tell you how he can do it. I would ask, is there, as our first pass into the, we're not East Bay Mud, and our resources are tight, and we're used to turning to our vendors and saying, hey, we've got a problem, how do you solve this, what works? And I'm sorry to say, I totally see that the geotechnical's a given, and $6,000 is a going rate. That's a great price for that. The structural engineer, it doesn't seem out of line. So I guess I'm feeling like we're $75,000 over what I'd be comfortable for engineering on this. And maybe I'm missing something about why this is so tricky, but I think we're used to solving stuff without a full-blown engineering firm, and it sticks in my throat to jump straight into doing that.
Well,
I feel.
A positive comment is I think your rates are more than fair. I mean, I think that for your principal engineer to $190 an hour is a fair price. I think senior engineer at $165, I don't have any issue with that. So then I was just kind of looking, well, let's skip the kickoff meeting. I don't know, but I don't want to nickel and dime your proposal. I think that's inappropriate. But what I hear a lot, and what I might suggest is, could you guys value engineer this project? Would it be maybe an advantage to have a design build firm that provides the structural design and actually does the work? Could that take, $50,000 out of this thing? I mean, I don't really know, but I think that you're the firm that we're going to rely on to do that. And I, for one, am just kind of cheap about this stuff. I want it done really well. I want all the stamps. I want to know that thing isn't going to move. I'm fine with all that.
The overhead seems a bit steep.
If I could
Yeah,
comment.
you can comment, sure.
Sure.
Tell us why we're.
I think, well, first of all, the district has policies that say if we're going to do work of this magnitude, construction of this magnitude, we have to create project documents and solicit sealed bids. That's no small task, creating project
But
documents.
it says in here, we provide those in Microsoft.
Only
Yeah, it does.
only the front end. The rest of the technical specifications, the plans, the project documents have to be formally created. That's a big expense on every project. I agree that it seems expensive, but
Yeah, very.
in addition to owing our customers sort of fiscal conservatism, we owe them the duty of following a standard of care in putting in infrastructure that they should reasonably expect to last 50 years or more. That tank, 50 years from now, that tank will still be there, just like it was 50 years ago. 100 years from now, that tank will still be
How
there.
long's it been there now?
So we have, probably
50.
50 years. So we have that duty. We have policies, we have a standard of care. And these numbers seem high to me too, but I can't question when a structural engineer says that's going to cost me this to do my work. I don't have a basis for questioning that. I do know, now we called up Andrini, we said, come on down here and look at this thing and tell us what you can do. Well, okay, I'm going to need $20,000 for a structural engineer, and I think it'll cost, $100,000 or $125,000 to build, to do whatever it is. Well, I don't, first of all, although it's legally possible for us to do that, we'd have to make an exception to our policies. I don't think that's a great idea. I mean, we could end up with something that doesn't represent the way we'd like to do business. We are constantly struggling today to deal with corners that were cut in the past. It comes up often, as a staff, we don't want to author that kind of thing for our successors, whether it's 10 years or 20 years or 50 years from now. So, that's while the board could decide to do whatever you feel is appropriate, we're giving you what, in our judgment, is necessary. I don't know, well, can it be value engineered? Well, it might be. Can you really do the work for, I hear this from you all the time about your clients. Can you really do the work? If somebody tells you, if you tell your client it's going to cost $100,000 to do the work, and they say, well, it should only cost 50, that's.
But Dave.
So, yeah, I've talked with Juben about this. He's willing to do anything, including just pull back and let us do whatever else we think is appropriate. So we do want to establish the kind of relationship with Pakpur Consulting Group that would allow us to do that, and that would allow us to have this kind of candid conversation. So, I don't think that's a limitation. And this is a time and materials project, so if it doesn't cost this, actually, then it won't get built. And I think...
Can we
if
pare back the oversight a little? There seems to be an awful
So,
lot, that's all.
but part
Well,
of-
then, I just,
Yeah, no, we all agree this is high, and I think what worries
We're
me
just asking how to-
is four of us are reacting that this seems high. And what you said is very correct, that you want to put this out to bid and get a low bid.
Right.
But our engineering isn't being put out to bid. So if all four of us react that it's a high price, I think that then there needs to be a better justification for the engineering, which we're not putting out to bid. And I think that's where my we didn't get 4 bids for the engineering services. We've got 1. And so that's where, when all 4 of us react that it's high, I think that's a pretty serious flag that we then have to, that's our job to sort of say, hey, this is hard to explain to the public. Because we're not putting it out to bid.
In the scale of the district's expenditures, we paid $40,000 incremental to evaluate a few more options on the Main Street Bridge pipeline. So, and that was not inappropriate. I think, I think for us.
Come up with a much cheaper
Right.
solution.
Much cheaper
We sure saved some money on
Yeah.
that one.
Money well
But
Yeah.
Only a couple $1 million
Yeah.
I don't mean to argue, but I think
Yeah.
we're just trying to bring you the approach that we think meets the standard that the district ought to meet. Might there be cheaper ways to do it? Yeah. Is Juben likely way off in the amount of effort he's estimated? Well, he's done a lot of projects for his other clients. We have tended not to really see the costs of engineering. We don't really, in the past decades. We've just had somebody that's on an open-ended contract, so we don't start out saying, well, gee, it's going to cost us X dollars to design this, but it would. I mean, it's these are lower rates than our current district engineer charges.
Okay, so I
So-
don't understand what a
Can I-
PS&E is, so let's cut that out. We save $22,000.
Can I jump in just
Yeah,
real
sure.
quick, just to add a couple things? You don't know me or our firm. This is our second project. The first project that we worked on was, or the first one that we're working on currently is you're updating your standard specs and plans. So whatever I say here is kind of grounded on the basis that, you're getting to know me and our firm, and I'm getting to know you and your district. And what I'm hearing, first of all, we don't work for East Bay Mud. So our firm is 10 people, and most of our revenue comes from districts of exactly your size. We don't look at gold plating stuff. We don't, when we become your district engineer, if you choose us, just like our other district engineers, we sit in the room right by you when you have your rate hearing. And when you're, and sometimes, I'm the one that's, being directed at as far as the rate costs and so forth. It's your money, and it'll become our money when we're what we asked, when Dave called me and asked us to put a proposal together, he said, what do you look at and look at holistically this site? Not just a retaining wall, but look in the future. And that retaining wall has stood there for 40 years. But when we're looking at this, we're looking at a seismic event. We're looking at what happens after an earthquake of a magnitude of what you design hospitals and police structures for. So our hours are not overhead hours. They're hours working with your district staff on getting the stuff that you need in now and in the future. So what we work with our other districts when we're working with them in the district engineer role is sitting with them and really understanding what their needs are here. So eventually you're going to do a seismic upgrade of this tank. Eventually you're going to paint this tank. You have a water line that runs directly underneath this line here. What happens when that leaks? Right now it's dirt. Maybe it makes sense to put pavement so you have access back there. What happens to the drainage? And that pavement, maybe it makes sense to have it be porous, so when that line does leak, it comes up through the pavement and has a place to go, so it doesn't undermine your retaining wall. There is definitely a cheaper way to do this, guys. I'm not trying to say there isn't. You could call a contractor, they could come out, they could hire a structural engineer. I gave you a proposal, as Dave asked, based on my experience with districts of exactly your size. My clients are exactly that, and the board members that I have at those districts ask those questions, but over time, I've been there 10, 15, 20 years, they have that relationship that they understand when they're looking at a cost. It's, we're not gold plating it. We're not, under proposing. It is what we feel like is the right cost to get you for what you need now for a retaining wall, and in the future, making sure that you have the facilities in place. But I absolutely respect that, if you think this is high, you're not used to working with me, and there's nothing I could do about that. And it's not the right way to start. Obviously, like you said, I think one of the directors said, hey, this is the first project. This is not, but that, what we see and what we've done as far as looking at this project and looking at the future for the district as far as this site, it does take time to do that. So I respect the fact that there's definitely a cheaper way to do this, and if that's a direction the district wants to go, I respect that. That's absolutely up to you as the governing board. And what I was asked to do was provide a proposal to, based on my experience working with districts of your size, and I provided my references at the very beginning. I go back on that because that's the pillar of who I am and who our firm is. And you run into these directors at my other districts at Aqua meetings, please talk to them and say, hey, is this guy gold plating projects, or is it, because there's definitely directors that don't want to spend money, but we have that relationship, and they understand that, when they get a proposal from us, I'm not highballing it, I'm not lowballing it, because neither one of those is a winning proposition for me. I'm here to be eventually, hopefully, your district engineer. If I lowball it, you'll get used to that low cost and expect that. If I highball it, then, you know, what kind of relationship is that from the very beginning? And all said and done, this is a time and material contract. And we're not a consultant where we go up to that limit just because we have that limit. Call all the other districts we work at. We routinely invoice what the cost is. So we put in the cost that we believe is what it will take to do this, but at the end of the day, it's absolutely your call.
We've worked with many contractors who have come in with bids, and we told them our feelings, and other ways for you, if you can, or if you can't, to do a little bit more review of this and come down with a more refined estimate that might be more comfortable to us, with perhaps a little less oversight and a little fewer meetings or something. We're willing to take risks. We have a little bit, you know, we owe it to our public to be concerned. And we have had people, contractors come in and understand what we said, and they did do a little revision, and it came out to be a good win-win relationship. So we're looking at you and saying, could you do this, or is this your last and final offer? If it is, then I think, you know, that's going to be our view of you. I don't think it should be. I think you should understand that maybe we're willing to go somewhere below the goal, this level. We don't see it because we've seen a lot of these things and lots of these jobs, and I don't know, that's my opinion.
Director
And so I'm
Feldman?
just asking you to think about that and tell us if you're willing to take a look at this and see if there's something that you can do to make it more palatable, that's all. If
What
not,
is,
then
what
tell
is
us.
Director Feldman,
PS&E?
That's to prepare your plans, specification, and cost us. That's the bulk of what you put out to bid.
Yeah,
And
it's
Director,
22 grand.
can I address Director Feldman's,
Yeah.
if that's okay?
Please.
I put a proposal together. We're a professional services firm.
Sure, I
We
understand.
don't bid on projects, and what we feel is the cost is what we gave you. I don't
fine,
put
that's fine.
fluff in there to, you know, look at taking it out. I absolutely respect if the cost is not what you're looking for, but we're a small firm, and we don't do project by project basis. We have clients that are, you know, long-term clients, and so we don't, it's not something that we bid on to look at negotiating out later.
I understand. Come on. So where do we stand?
Thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, I see 2 months, you know,
Is this an emergency? I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean, I do,
It's a
I might
critical,
wanna ask to
yeah,
have another-
it's a critical project, you know, I don't know,
I'm just asking. Is it
I'm
gonna
not
fall
sure
down?
how you would,
I don't know. Ask
direct
Jim
us.
Teeter to do.
you know,
well, so I think that's.
I mean, we
sort
can,
of
we can bring
formulates
back,
comments here.
if you want to, if you'd like to waive the district's policies with respect to,
No,
We're not
no, we're not asking.
asking
We're
that,
not,
Dave.
we're not, we're not.
we
nowhere
can, we
near
that.
can bring
We're
a
not asking that, Dave.
contractor out and
We're
do it
not
that way.
asking that.
We're
We're saying
nowhere
there's
I'm just
another option. to-
questioning-
Let's go down to one time.
But-
Chris, why don't you
I'm sorry.
take the floor?
This is really one person, 2 months. And does it really take, I mean, if we're, you know, 7.75 week, 40-hour weeks. That's almost 2 months. Would it take one person 2 months to design this? Does it take
Well,
that? I mean, the man hours are just like, Christ, I thought, you know, I'm not a computer whiz by any means, but I thought CAD worked a little faster. And I think a lot of these, you know, retention walls and, you know, things like that are kind of, you know, point and click or drag or whatever. You know, this is all in the software. I mean, this isn't somebody sitting at a drafting table, you know, with a quill. I mean, I don't see the hours. Certainly, when we came time to engage this firm, I was absolutely impressed with, you know, $190 an hour for a principal engineer. Man, that's a deal. I mean, you know, I've been sitting here a long time, and I've seen rates go up, but now when I see the hours that it takes which up front was a really reasonable hourly, is it really, you know, 310 hours in this?
If it's not. we won't get billed for them.
But we're signing
that's
a
the good news.
contract saying we approve that many hours.
Yeah, and I,
that's-
historically, if we approve 99,000, it's not gonna come in, guy, you know what, my guy, his software was on fire, he did it, in 180 hours, so, here's the balance back. I've been sitting here a long time, I've never seen that happen.
It's not gonna be,
Well, here's the frustration that I feel, okay? I think that it's an important project. I think that we're trying to develop a relationship. I think that we're doing the due diligence, and I know that we're being respected for making the direct comments. Because to work together with someone over a long period of time, if we can't talk directly and honestly, we're in trouble from the word go, right? So we're off on a really bad program. And frankly, from my perspective, I don't really want to be the second guesser of the hours. I don't really want to look at it with that detail. And I think that if the numbers weren't so different between hard costs and what I would call the soft costs, I don't think I would have a hesitation. I don't know what that number would be. Maybe that number is 80,000 or it's 85,000 or something like that, where the hard costs are 44 and the soft costs are matching that. But I'm not really trying to negotiate with you. I think that's one of the things I really want to make clear. I'm not really just trying to, okay, who'll come in cheap, and the idea of a design-build contractor wouldn't be us going out and getting that. It would be you. It would still be you preparing documents. It would still be you preparing, all the things that we need to make sure that we take care of our customers and that we're competent at managing our district, that we're putting it together properly. It would still be you. Because otherwise we're in trouble already. We're writing specs and we're working on all kinds of things for the district. So we want to build a relationship, And so I don't know how to approve that. Fine, let's go at 99 and, maybe you'll come in and say, gosh, it really was a great thing and, you guys were kind of right. We've spent a little bit less time. We still think we gave you a quality product. The lawyer's never going to have to come bug us. And let's get on with it. But I just think that you do set precedents in relationships.
Absolutely.
And I think that from my perspective, is looking at the realities, that was my reaction. It was just like, wow. And I think we spend a lot of money. We spend here on capital improvements in a year, $5 million.
$5
million.
Yeah, it's not like we don't spend the money. It's not like we don't approve things. So I thought Director Feldman's question was a good one. Is it worth it to engage knowing that we're going to hope you're coming under this price? Is that a reasonable engagement with you?
We don't propose something that we think we're gonna come under, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's not,
So you
But-
think that's the right number?
a lot of this is coordination based also. So it's not that the CAD computer is gonna be faster, but if there's less level of coordination, if I can use the specifications project that we're working for you, that's coming in about maybe 10% under budget because the total coordination that we had budgeted for, the meetings that were needed, your staff was a lot more on top of things than we thought it was. So that project is going to not be billed 100%. That's going to be less, just because of the coordination. So a lot of hours that we built in here are coordinating different aspects of the project. But like I said, those hours we give you the estimate that we feel is going to, is what, based on our experience, but it definitely could be less. I just don't know what that is.
Bob?
I just need to, the approach you're taking is that you coordinate the activities of the three lower subcontractors and use them to deliver the information you need to do the design. Is that how this is working?
No, a lot of the coordination is with your staff also to make,
I don't think we have that much staff time to
Okay.
spend doing this. That's the other problem I'm having. Your portion above the 51K, is mostly for the coordination of the staff and the activities of the people that you subcontract with to
No.
do the design? What if you did your work and all of the construction work and all of the actual engineering was done as a separate transaction? That is to say, you were doing, could you do yours work without using the lower guys? I'm just trying to understand, how does this happen? No, okay.
No,
There's something-
it's not, coordination is one aspect of it, but the bulk of the hours
Yeah, I got it.
are
Just-
spent putting together the plans and specifications and
I got
your
it.
bid items and getting it ready to go out to bid. If you decide to do an informal bid process where you don't have a formal bid document, then the cost of this is going to be substantially lower in the PS&E portion. A lot of it is getting it up to the level of having a public bidding document.
Aye.
You could hire a structural engineer, have them provide details and hand it to a contractor, and then deal with the other aspects of having it, thinking of the future as far as the drainage and those kind of things. But there's definitely, like I said, there's definitely a cheaper way to doing it. What we based our proposal on was working with districts in the past and looking not for now, but
Sure.
in the future. And what you need now and what you need in the future. And using the documents that you'll get, like a geotechnical engineer and a structural engineer or a topo for those future projects. But
Is this a problem you've come up with before, a tank like this with this?
we had the reverse problem. One of our tanks, it was called Neary Tank in Carissima Hills Water District, had a retaining wall, had a failure on the downslope. So kind of a reverse
Different,
aspect.
sure.
But we had a lot more time for that. We started out the process in March, not July. And so,
I just listening to this, I understand where the board's coming from. I don't know the board needs some confidence that we've got the right number. I think, I see this as a valid estimate. Now, if you want to, we can go out and solicit some other proposals. I would predict, I'd bet a couple of days' salary that if I'd asked Kennedy Jenks and, other reputable engineering firms to give us a proposal for this, we're gonna end up with not much different. The other thing is, these are all time and materials contracts, and as we've learned, engineers run out of time and they come back and ask for more. So, but if it would give the board some more confidence that we're really looking at a reasonable number, we can get some other numbers. We don't, we have not ever,
I'm sorry?
yeah, we have not ever,
Do we have time to do that?
we've not ever competed, and we've not ever competed engineering services, nor are we required
no,
to by
we
policy.
understand.
We did on the bridge, we asked to go back and
Okay,
look
we
at other
understand.
ways to do it.
The same engineer, right, and we paid for that extra time. So, we pay for their time. I believe that all of the engineers that we work with are responsible professionals. They're not padding their time.
Nobody's arguing
Right.
that, but I think that there are super bulletproof bid documents that are dream government documents that really lay out every detail about how the job is going to be done. And then there's a little bit more workmanlike, get the job done. And I would like to, it would be my suggestion that we explore a way to do this without, 22,000 on engineering and then another 25,000 on management. It's my ratio of engineering to solution is out of whack here.
I honestly don't think that the proposal we get from any other engineering firm is going to be substantially different. Every engineering firm comes in with, and I don't know.
Then maybe PACPOR hasn't done a good enough job of explaining about why the ratio of job to engineering is so crazy here. I mean, when we did Denniston, wasn't our engineering about 15 to 20% of the total project cost was the engineering?
And I think the engineering just takes what it takes. It's a small site. The structural engineering on this is important. I don't have a basis for second guessing the amount of time. We have experienced, having been through a whole lot of projects, we have experienced the pain we go through if we don't do it carefully up front to define what the heck the contractor's supposed to do. And I know that's what we depend on engineers for. I'm a little bit, I guess, I'm a little bit puzzled about, the degree of concern with what seems like a fairly straightforward thing. And I guess it comes from, this is, some people have experience with retaining walls. It seems like a simple project, but it's not, for reasons that
I have no experience with any of that.
Yeah.
It just seems the ratio is out of sync, that's
Yeah,
all.
and-
I agree with and I have no experience
I don't-
with building retaining.
the only thing I
Maybe
could-
it would be good, and you can prove to us, indubitably, that another estimate would be equivalent or more. Then I will become putty in your hands.
I would second
I will
that.
become putty in your
I'll
hands.
third
I
it.
will.
Yeah.
I will
Case closed.
go whichever way you push me. But
Yeah.
that's my opinion today. Nothing, it's a business issue, nothing personal. It's just, that's the way I feel. I understand where you're coming from. You're trying to give us your best shot. Somehow or other, a number of us just,
That's fair. You're doing
I
your
having a
job.
problem
I don't
today.
at
That's it.
all-
That's our job.
you're-
Okay.
I think the last comment that I would make is, I feel it's unfortunate
yes,
that it's gonna take a little more time.
right,
However, we're embarking on a new relationship.
right.
And my strong feeling is that I want to step forward in that relationship feeling
know-
100% solid. Because our relationship with this firm isn't going to be a single item relationship. And a lot of these things that we've done in the past, it's like a one and done, or it's a two and done. And, I mean, if we form this relationship, I think it's going to be a 400 and done.
Would the board,
So I think.
Jubin and
that-
I have a question for you. Jubin and I talked about this. It's not, we're not really bidding out engineering service. It's not quite fair to make other engineers go through this exercise of providing us with a bid. Would the board, if we could find some independent experts, let's say. like a
Sigma
peer
Prime
review-
owes us
yeah,
$8,000.
Peer review, I'd call it a peer review panel.
Don't
Some
they?
folks we could pay, we'll pay a few
They did?
$1,000 for a few hours of their time to give us an opinion about this. I don't want to, it's not fair for me to go to Kennedy Jenks and
No.
say, hey, bid on this thing that we,
Yeah.
because engineers don't do that. No engineer bids projects.
Yeah,
So,
that's
but I
fair.
could.
No, I agree. I just-
But we
maybe
could
get
get
one of them
some,
to
I
give
think
you
we
an
could
estimate.
find some independent expertise to come in and look at this and say, we know other structural engineers.
Yeah.
Could Jim Teeter do an estimate?
Yeah,
Tell Teeter
why
to,
not?
just
I
have
mean,
Teeter
well, he
review it
could-
and come back and say it looks
Why don't
good.
you get an independent
I
estimate?
mean,
from
he's our
Jim Teeter?
engineer, right?
Well, the
And he
reason
knows he's
that,
not gonna bid on
the
it.
reason that we are,
No, I know.
moving away from Jim Teeter is he doesn't do these multidisciplinary, he's not
No, I guess.
that good
Well, get
at
someone that you believe.
finding, arranging the geotechnical, arranging the
Mhm.
structural. He doesn't do structural. He's a one-man shop.
Yeah.
But he's smart.
So,
Really
yeah,
smart.
and,
He's smart, yeah.
Oh,
He could tell you, I mean, he probably has an idea.
So I'd be all in favor of
An independent.
doing that, of paying,
Yeah, just to
you
confirm.
know,
Okay.
this.
call Charlie, get him to weigh throw an opinion on it. Call Teeter, pay him a couple hours to weigh an opinion.
Right.
And if it comes back, I would volunteer to come in for a special meeting
Meeting, so
to move forward
Whatever.
quickly.
right.
I feel that the four of us are in agreement that we're uncomfortable with it as it sits, and so I would ask that
Just
you
the way it goes.
would review it.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, can we move on?
Let's.
All right. Next item, Crystal Springs Pump. I think we've all read it. You want to present it?
Okay, glad you all read it. and I hope this goes a little faster.
I was gonna vote yes.
This was, as you recall, we had a, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But as you recall, last winter, we found a leak on the shaft and the column on this unit. And so we pulled the pump and we replaced the shaft and the column. And what you may not know is that, or you might know, we always carry a spare for the 350 horsepower and the 500 horsepower units that we have up there. We put the spare in.
Yeah.
With the hopes of refurbishing the existing one. It's been in there for quite a long time.
Yeah.
So when we sent that out to be refurbished, the report came back that it's really
dead.
not fixable.
Yeah.
So what we're asking here is just to purchase another spare.
I'm good with that.
So we put the spare is now operating.
Switch
Yeah.
slides.
The spare is now in the
So how long did it sit there as a spare? 'Cause I have been there and I do recall seeing that.
within the last 12 years. And what we do is, we visit that site every day.
Right.
And we just give it a little spin,
Okay, okay.
so it doesn't, wobble.
So that it has
Flat spot.
sitting there in,
We maintain it.
not in operation, hasn't caused it to
No, because
seize up or.
No,
we-
the one we're
make sure it's
replacing
always-
is the one
Yeah,
that's was this that's
Yeah,
was
no, I
in
I
service.
understand that. I just
So-
wondering if having something sit there, like
No,
if
we
you
were-
parked your
we
car
were aware
in
that
the
that could
driveway for
happen,
12
so-
years, it
so
probably wouldn't
Yeah.
start.
It's our policy to,
Yeah,
Yeah.
part of the routine.
yeah,
Yeah.
I understand, okay.
How long does
Okay.
it take to get the spare pump pulled?
I'm not exactly sure, it's a couple of weeks out.
Okay, it's not-
That's
it's not-
a guess. It's
In
not-
case
it's not
something
a
should
critical
go,
case.
okay.
I'd like to move we authorize the general manager to purchase a new bowl and shaft assembly for Crystal Springs Pump Number 3.
I'll second it. Joanne?
Yes. Director Coverdell?
Aye.
Vice President Feldman?
Yes.
Director Michelson?
Yeah.
Aye.
President Reynolds? Thank you.
All right, license and commercial right of entry agreement for Strawflower Village pipeline installation.
Okay, this is a project that the board awarded in January. We thought it could happen a little sooner. I began working with Regency Centers, the owner of Strawflower Village, to try to get an easement or an access agreement. The person I worked with for several months left on maternity leave, and I started over after a while. And then Regency Centers decided it was going to sell the shopping center, so that threw us a little bit of a curveball. But
Could
finally,
solve our income gap.
they have provided us with a way to do the project, which is important to us, through an access agreement that we've worked on. And the access agreement would allow us to go in and put in the pipeline, and it acknowledges that it's sort of interim in nature and that we would eventually resolve this with a permanent easement. So the access agreement, this is all in the access road that goes into the shopping center. So,
The Strawflower Safeway Shopping Center?
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you refresh my memory on that project?
Yeah, sure.
There was nothing to tell, I forgot. What is it doing? Just tell me one more time.
Sure, this pipeline, there are two places where our system crosses Pilarcitos Creek.
Right.
One of them is behind Strawflower Shopping Center. So the pipe loops around down Grand or Belleville, comes behind Safeway,
Right.
and then goes underneath the creek. And the Long's Drug Store
Right.
and the part of the shopping center not owned by Regency that includes Baskin Robbins and
Right.
Burger King and that stuff in there, are fed off of that pipe. The problem with the current configuration is, if the pipe in the creek gives us a problem, we don't have any way to shut the water off
Right.
without putting CVS and all that back
Out
part
of
of the
business.
shopping center out of water.
So you want to do
So we call this phase one of the project that will put in a new line going from the Safeway parking lot to about where Burger King is.
right?
And that would allow us to shut off the way that we're doing it would allow us to shut off the line that crosses the creek if there's a problem with it, and still be able to feed the entire shopping center, so everything in the shopping center. And our system will operate with that. If we had a problem in the creek, our system will operate with that line shut off.
Wow.
We can still, there may be some pressure issues, on Oak Avenue.
But you need to get into the parking lot to do this.
We have to get into the access road. The second phase of the agreement will be to get a new pipe across, of the project will be get a new pipe across Pillarcitos Creek. We
Okay.
haven't decided how we're going to do that yet. We initially thought, and we've developed plans for an approach that would hang the pipe on the city's footbridge.
Oops, we've been down that path.
We'll continue to explore that option with the city as an alternative. We can do the same thing we did for the Main Street Bridge pipe, which is bored underneath the creek. So
The existing
but this-
pipe, the existing single pipe goes underneath?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We don't know we don't know
Before my
its
time.
condition, we don't know exactly where it is. We know that we can't
Okay.
shut it off
Got it.
if
Now,
it breaks.
The agreement, as I read it, did our legal staff review it in great detail? Because as I read it, there seemed to be an awful lot of onus on us.
There is.
There was all kinds of onus on the district. Please tell me that we are cool with all this onus on it. Everything seems to be the district agrees to. I just want to be sure we're cool.
Right, so I did review the agreement.
Okay.
You are correct, it is onerous on the district. As your general manager pointed out, our first attempt at this was to try to get permanent easements for the pipeline. There were some challenges. This project is unique because of the two phases that general manager, so we don't actually know exactly where our easements need to be for a portion of the pipe. So if you think about it in the broadest terms, this is really going to be an easement exchange. We have an existing easement for a pipeline that currently exists in the road.
Currently exists.
And we're going to be relocating the pipe in two phases. So we know where one phase is going to be, but we don't know where the second phase is going to be. So there's timing issues.
Mhm.
So that's one reason to go with this approach. So really what we're doing is we're entering into a right of entry agreement, as opposed to getting permanent easements, or they actually had a different approach at the outset other than easements that was totally unacceptable
Mhm.
to the district, and so we shifted to here. And it is not uncommon for owners of property, when they're allowing people to use their property, to require things like indemnification for damages that arise during construction. And so those are reasonable expectations that we would have to take on while we're constructing the pipeline. And as your general manager pointed out, there's recognition that this is a temporary agreement, and that permanent easements will be entered into in the future when they're determined to be known. So there's some risks with that, too, but those are risks that your general manager and I talked about, and we think are reasonable, given the circumstances.
If they weren't selling the property, at some point, would it look the same?
I don't know.
Is this because they're selling that this is all in there and we have to protect ourselves against the future when someone else?
Well,
owns
this
it?
would,
This was very
yeah,
interesting agreement, that's all.
yeah,
thought.
we would, normally we do our pipelines in the public right-of-way.
Right.
And it's sort of
It-
assumed that we'll
It's just
handle any problems
It's a parking lot,
related
and
to
under
our.
there, I
Yeah.
just can't imagine what they have
Well,
under there.
We're
It's not
still,
a series of all kinds of housing and all kinds of other utilities and stuff, I don't know. It seemed very onerous, I'm just trying to react. However, if that's your view, is it's a good agreement for the needs that it has, then I don't know what else to say.
Well, it serves the district's
It serves the
purpose.
district.
Is it the best agreement
$5
that
million
totally protects the
indemnification?
district?
I would
No, but it's a reasonable approach, given the circumstances that we're
Mm-hmm.
in.
Isn't this first phase really beneficial to them, not us? Because it means that their customers have a greater assurance of a water supply in the event of an issue with the pipe.
oh, yeah, and I think my impression is that the property manager that I'm working with has worked very hard to get us in there, in spite of the
Interesting.
fact that
Okay.
They plan to close escrow in September. I've told them, if we have a problem, CVS is gonna be out of water for a good amount of time, and, nobody wants that. I don't think that the responsibility we're taking on here is really much different from anything we'd have in any other project. And we pass a lot of that on to our contractor. I mean, if the contractor does some damage, this is a very simple project. I don't think that the terms of this agreement pose any risk for us.
The 5 million caught my attention.
Yeah.
Do we ever ask our contractors to be indemnified at that level, or is it normally 2 million?
Oh, you're talking about the insurance as opposed to the indemnification.
yeah, whatever.
We do require our contractors to indemnify us for
Right,
damages
for
that
what
they
level?
arise. We typically have insurance, it's anywhere from 1 to 4 million, depending on,
This number was the biggest number I have ever seen, that's all.
Yeah.
In anything we've signed. I'm just reacting. They wouldn't take less than 5 mil? I mean, they don't take 2 mil?
It's their property,
that's-
they can,
That's-
it's not a problem for us.
Okay.
It doesn't,
So, Ken, you okay? Thoughts?
I think it's great. I'm
All right.
glad that the last time we had to try to get rights of entry into property.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
Yeah,
$500.
Yeah, the 500
Went a real different
$500
direction.
Let's vote on it before it
Yeah,
goes
all right,
away.
I'll make a motion that we approve the license and
Make a
commercial
root beer
right of
float
entry
for our
agreement for
attorney.
Strawflower Village pipeline
Who
installation.
was the last time? Which one?
Let's, Ken, when you're done, Ken.
Excuse me. Do we have a second?
Oh, sorry, we don't have a second.
I'll second
Anybody
it.
want to second it? There, Chris, thank you. Second.
Dr. Coverdell?
Yes.
Vice President Feldman?
Yes.
Director Michelson?
Yes.
Yes.
President Reynolds? Thank you.
Yep. All right, fiscal 2016, 2017 year-end financial results preliminary.
So I'm very pleased to say that we significantly came in under budget, and we still, we're still working on our financial statements for the end of the year. We have bills coming in, but we made some estimates, and we feel like we're in really good shape. One of the key points on revenue, we budgeted for 550 million gallons, and we came in at 552. We were thinking that we would get up to 560, but June levels were below last year.
Wow.
So, we're on this track of, we may have a hard time meeting the 560 that we budgeted in our plan for this fiscal year, but it is. But we did see our water revenue was $247,000 above budget, and then our non-operating revenue, which includes our tax receipts, came in at $439,000 above budget. Our expenses, we saw great savings on our water purchases with using local sources, $329,000 we saved using Denniston, and also we did some refurbishments of our wells this year too. So it was greater use of of the wells, and thanks to Joe's team of doing a wonderful job. We saved on electricity, $91,000. We also saved a lot on personnel. We had. Dave is in the budget at full-time, and, we obviously, he's being paid part-time and is being semi-retired. We also had some open positions during the year as well, so, and then we had some other savings, like, we had fewer leaks, and we saved on some maintenance costs and consulting costs, so. So as we, looking at our CIP and reserves, we spent 5.1 versus 6.1, but we have a lot of spend that's coming in July and August and September on Denniston, on our recoding project, this Strawflower pipeline installation, and Crystal Springs pumps. So we are going to spend the money.
The last year, maybe.
So,
700K more.
Yeah, so.
Approximately.
Yeah,
So we only had two items that we nailed perfectly on the budget. That was our uniform expenses and our election expenses. Interesting to note, interesting to note.
Well, but, I will say at least on the revenue, this is, if you look at, for years and years, we haven't made our revenue budget, so we predicted that.
Why were we so off on our state fees?
We have with the State Water Board has significantly increased our costs. They're now,
Basically doubled them.
they doubled them.
In one go.
Thank you.
We're paying for all that staff to tell us to use less water.
That's a pretty hefty chunk they're coming after us for.
Big government at its finest.
Yeah,
So if you take out the 700 capital to
yeah.
come, not including the 3.2 next year, we down around 4.5 million in reserves.
Right, and what
If we had spent it all, how does that stand against what we predicted to have this year in reserves? I forget.
we're about,
What was our reserve projection for the end of last year?
we're about $1 million ahead, and that's largely because of our, of our savings and our operating.
So does that mean we'll make our 6 million early?
We made, basically, we knew we were getting to the, to the point of where we were projecting 4.6 million when we did our rate model.
Sure.
So we're on track with what we presented with the,
Our rate model for this year?
for the
last year.
upcoming year.
Oh,
Yes.
4.6.
Yeah,
Okay, so we're on track.
we're on track.
Okay, just answer.
We're on track,
You should take out that 700.
right.
Mary, thank you very much, and good news, and we'll
Good job.
expect more good news next month,
No,
right?
great.
Just sort of flow each month. Thank
Tell
you.
it's good news, there's so many fewer slides.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to considering the approval of Resolution 2017-3, establishing appropriation limit applicable to drinking water, applicable to district during fiscal year 2017.
This is a tough one.
I got it wrong.
Byline, you want to talk about it?
Sure. This is something that we do, the district does every year. It's an appropriations limit. It's a spending limit on tax proceeds. You spend way less than the appropriations limit. Our office gets the information from the Department of Finance. We apply the change in population and CPI to your last year's appropriations limit to come up with a new one. There's procedural requirements to post the calculations. That's been done, and it's our recommendation that you approve this year's appropriation limit. Happy to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, Joanne?
And that's adopting the resolution.
Yeah,
Adopting a resolution.
yeah.
Dr. Coverdell?
Yes.
Vice President Feldman?
Yes.
Director Michelson?
Yes.
President Reynolds, thank you.
Is that tax appropriation year?
All right.
Yeah.
To say 700 too.
Response to 2016-2017 grand jury reporting regarding Independent Special District website transparency update. Well,
Yeah,
there was an
maybe.
exciting report to read.
No way.
Who's heading this off?
Okay, as you may recall, the 2014-15 grand jury came out with a report that looked at all 22 special districts in San Mateo County and evaluated website transparency and some other things. And they made a number of recommendations, which we responded to. And we have since, I think, responded to some information requests from the subsequent grand juries. The 2016-17 grand jury did an update report, which is attached to the staff report. They have sent us this update report, which basically focused on whether districts had followed the recommendation to pursue the California Special District Association's District Transparency Certificate of Excellence. So basically, and the transparency, that certificate focuses on the availability of specific pieces of information, most of which you can find on the website. It's not required that it all be on the website, but most of these things are on the website. So they came back and they looked at the websites of each of the districts and evaluated them against the Special District Leadership Foundation's criteria. And so with respect to Coastside County Water District, they found that we met all the requirements for the certificate, but had not applied for it. So we've now applied for it. That should make them happy. We are required to make a response, and it's also required that the response as presented in Attachment B be approved by our governing body. In reviewing the draft response, or this response presented in the staff report, we found a few non-substantive cleanup items that we're going to fix before we send the letter.
Bob, what you got?
No, I have one technical question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We respond to the findings. How are we required to respond to every finding, even if we're not part of that finding? That is to say, the findings talked about things that weren't right in some areas. The only thing that was noted to us was we had not applied for the certificate of excellence. Is it not redundant to reply to all the other things and not just to say to them, we hereby go with finding one which we have not applied for the excellent and apply for the certificate excellent per your recommendation? Is this a longer answer than it needs to be for our response?
That's a great question.
That was my question.
And it's a great one. What they do say is that agencies are supposed to respond to each finding and to the recommendations, but what's unique about this particular report is it identifies different districts that are subject to different findings and different recommendations. And so the response to the findings is appropriate, and that's what your general manager put together. It said, we don't know about these other districts, and so we have no opinion.
It's definitely appropriate response. I'm not arguing.
And so,
It just seemed
I think it's better to respond to each of the findings, because then there's no
That's fine.
question about it, and the responses that are in there are
I
appropriate.
just-
And so one of the non-substantive clarifications we're gonna make is that we did not respond to recommendation number 1 in this draft, and so we're thinking, hey, we'll respond to recommendation number 1, says we're not supposed to reply to recommendation number 1, if you're told. But it just
Okay, no,
fills in
no,
all the
that's-
blanks.
that's- that's-
Perfect. Ken,
Thank you.
Chris, do you have anything to add?
No.
Okay. Ken?
Great job.
Yep,
That's good.
okay. I'll make a
Great
motion that
response.
we adopt and approve and the response to the grand jury report on website transparency.
As will be revised to make some non-substantive
Yeah,
changes by your
as
general
per
manager.
what our team has put together.
Second.
Director Coverdell?
Aye.
Vice President Feldman?
Yes.
Director Michelson?
Yes.
President Reynolds? Thank you.
Before we leave that subject, I'd like to recognize and express my appreciation for Joanne Whalen's efforts in pursuing these criteria. Her efforts are the reason that we were found to meet the transparency criteria. She's really done a lot of work on it. The application was about that thick.
Oh, yeah.
Went in, so
Well done.
thank you, Joanne, for those
you.
I think
really
when we
great
get the award, it
efforts.
should go in her
Is it?
office.
Yeah.
There we go.
It's a big application
Yeah.
to get the excellence.
So, anyway.
Well done.
Well, we should
It was a
have,
lot of work.
we should have, because we pride ourselves on transparency. That's our motto.
All right.
It's like our water.
Purchase of a new service truck from Summit Truck Equipment.
That is some.
That is
That's a
so,
hell of a truck.
boy, did the guys have fun with this.
I like the one that shines your work boots over there.
I was just waiting for the word.
I like the polished rims, I mean,
No, there's no rims on this, like, there's not polished rims in any of it.
Does it drive itself
But there's
too?
a lot of stuff that is custom on this truck, and that's the bed.
well, I see polished rims on the invoice here.
Really?
Is this built
Yeah.
by Tesla?
Chrome bumper, polished rims.
But
We're gonna
there's-
give the fire department a run for their money.
What's the insurance gonna cost on this thing?
Oh, we didn't consider that.
It won't go up.
But in any event, the existing truck is, it's scary. going up to Denison, and you have to kind of say a little prayer on the way up, hoping it's gonna make it up there. Rough roads, it's uneven, it's well over, it's way too heavy for the chassis that it's on, that we presently have. And John Davis, to his credit, has spent a lot of time researching this out, meticulously researching this out. And the Summit truck equipment is the best out there. It's very durable, it's very rugged, every aspect of it. And so, like I said, he spent a lot of time researching it. And he asked, he spent a lot of time with the operators out there to determine their needs and what we need out there and what would be the most efficient. And it came up with this. So we're asking that, and it's actually under the amount of money that we've allotted for the purchase of a new service vehicle. And this is something that happens once every 15 years,
No, it doesn't
20
look,
years.
it doesn't look like the dealer's putting our logo on it. That's gonna be separate, or we've got that budgeted.
That's not a large expense.
Okay.
We do that.
When we buy
I
the last.
want our logo on there.
Oh, God, of
Of course,
course.
it'll definitely be on there.
Yeah,
In a
okay.
number of places.
I didn't see the
17
surround
years.
sound. The surround sound,
I don't know if it has.
Do they?
You know, the
Bluetooth?
picture,
Has
the
it got
picture
Bluetooth?
shows it's got a flat tire.
Or,
Only on the bottom.
Yeah, only on the bottom, but I did know that
Was this
tire's
built to
not gonna
spec?
roll well.
tires are extra.
Did we put a spec together for the units that are in this line? Or is it mostly standard and we maybe?
No, I
tweak
think it represents,
I'm just asking.
yeah, it represents the combined effort of John Davis and the representative of Summit.
To
And it's it's
configure it.
customized, yeah.
Customize, I meant
Yeah,
customize.
So since we're buying it out of state, why do we have to pay sales tax?
As the end user.
That's
Too
always
bad.
the
Yeah,
way
they
it is.
catch you.
Yeah. All right, well, I make a motion, we buy it.
Could we, read the recommendation?
Oh, sorry. Does anybody else want to debate it anymore?
Yeah, I wonder
I'll
if
go
they
for a
give,
ride in it.
do they provide a model of this with the big truck?
We
A
can-
full,
I'm sure
a little
that-
model that I can give to my grandson?
This conversation's getting
No,
out of
really,
control.
just this a beautiful little, like a big Tonka truck.
All
That
right.
that would fall under the category of
Kickbacks,
swag,
yes.
And we have a policy here
No
against
swag.
Yep.
swag.
Okay, I'm just.
You might get a Summit t-shirt. You ready?
For what? You gotta read what we're,
No, I just want to know. Any more
Joanne wanted to
debate?
be sure.
All right, so I'll make a motion, we
Okay,
purchase a new service truck from Summit Truck Equipment
So
as specified.
maybe you should,
Yeah, read
let's take a look
directly.
at the staff report, because we're waiving one
Yes.
of the requirements in our procurement policy as well. So
We're
we
not
should-
going
we
to
need be
bid
sure
on
we do
this
that.
thing.
Yeah.
It's right under the recommendation.
So our recommendation is, all right, so we're going to agree to waive the competitive bidding requirement of Resolution 2016-09 to allow the purchase of a new service truck from Summit Truck Equipment is in the best interest of the district, in order to obtain a vehicle custom designed for the district's needs through a collaborative effort of the vendor and the district staff. And then furthermore, or item 2, we'd authorize the general manager to purchase a new service truck from Summit Truck Equipment for a total of $367 and no pennies.
I think it's 2010 or 210,000.
All right, 210,367. How's that?
Yeah, that's good.
So I can tell you, we got the biggest engine, biggest Cummins
That is a
available in that
huge
truck.
engine.
Yeah, that's 350 horses is the biggest one they make now. The chassis is about 82,000 on the internet.
Joe, what happens with the diesel clean air? Does this have one of those
Oh, this is-
pesky reburner things?
I'm
Probably
not
has
exactly
AdBlue.
sure, but I'm sure it meets the California standards.
Yeah, probably, I bet it
John
has
has been
AdBlue.
very much in tune with those
Cool.
requirements.
Okay. Joanne, you want to, we need a
We need a
second. Bob, what do you think?
Second.
All right, Bob likes it.
Thank you. Director Coverdell?
Yes.
Vice President Feldman?
Yes.
Director Michelson?
Yes.
President
Yeah.
Reynolds?
And here's a,
Is that It's an operating expense. Operating expense.
Yes.
I don't even want to announce it. All right, our next topic is the recycled water update.
Push it in if you want to. We used to set a limit.
Okay. You ready for recycled water?
We're
Not
so
really.
ready.
No, it's a waste of time.
I
guess it couldn't be calculated.
I got a notification that the staff of the sewer authority want to schedule a meeting of the recycled water committee. So it seemed like an appropriate time to update this board on what's been going on at SAM. It's been a while since we've talked about it. I think the last time it came up in public session was in February when we talked about our basic, a sheet of basic terms for the recycled water agreement, which we've focused on for a long time as the essential next step in moving toward a recycled water project. So we approved those terms on February 14th. We haven't yet heard anything back from the sewer authority. They did discuss it at one meeting and did not take any action. I think the direction to staff was to come up with some terms to present to us. But I thought I'd just review what's been going on at the sewer authority and how that relates to our interests. So at the June 12th SAM board meeting, SRT and RMC presented the draft finance plan, which is Exhibit 2 on the staff report, which is the final piece of the 25% design. We agreed at the committee that it would be good to better understand the costs of the project, to do enough design that we'd get a better cost estimate. And the finance plan was to be, well, how would this be financed? So, looking at some of the essential pieces of the finance plan, the total cost is estimated at $5.2 million, including the approximately $1.2 million, that's the district's piece. So that $1.2 million came directly from our Kennedy Jenks Technical Memo 2. So Sam's piece of the project, if we kind of leave out the administrative legal stuff associated with the CCWD 1.2 million, is about $4 million. And the guiding principles, as well as the basic terms that we approve, say that the sewer authority will finance this facility. They'll come up with $4 million to build everything that it takes to get recycled water in the quantity and quality specified by CCWD, delivered to the fence, where it will go into our system, be pumped to wherever our users are. So that's, under the guiding principles, that's their obligation at this point. The financing report provided this summary of annual costs based on the cost estimate and an estimate for annual O&M cost of $273,000. They looked at a range of potential theoretical, I guess, financing scenarios. The SRF loan would have a very low interest rate, 1.7%. Bonds, which would be a more straightforward and probably more accessible form of financing, they assumed would carry an interest rate of about 5%, and both of those they looked at a 30-year term. And so you can see here that in the case of the bond financing, which is probably a little bit more realistic, the annual cost is about $612,000. So the conclusion of the Sewer Authority Board was, well, given that Ocean Colony Partners is willing to put in $525,000 a year, and this range of costs, seems like the project is feasible. So that was their board's, that came up in their discussion, looks feasible. So we wanted to go back and review a pro forma that Mary prepared and that we presented to the committee in October 2015, a couple of years ago. And we said, well, we're concerned about the cost for this project versus the amount of money that's available from OCP. And we thought we'd just bring these back using the scenario from the financing plan, taking out CCWD's $1.2 million share, which we'll leave aside for the moment. The capital cost is about $4 million, so that's what Sam would need to borrow. We looked at, in 2015 at a couple of different interest scenarios, and we actually looked at a couple of different amortization periods. We think that 30 years might be a little bit unrealistic. 20 might be more realistic.
Technologies will change.
Yeah, we're kind of fine with, if Sam can finance it over 30 years and they take on the obligation to deliver water in the quality and quantity we specify, that's kind of fine with us. You know, that works for us. So what we see here is, and this is where, and again, these were numbers that we presented, that Mary prepared and that we presented to the committee in 2015. The annual payment on $4 million at 3%, which is probably kind of an optimistic scenario, would be about $269,000. We estimated, Mary estimated, for the purposes of this pro forma, that annual operating costs would be about $270,000, and surprisingly, SRT came up with $273,000 a year, so pretty close there. The number that they did not include in their pro forma was the loss of overhead that CCWD will experience by taking the potable water supplied to the golf course out of our sales. That's a real cost to us. If we do the recycled water project, somebody's got to pay this $140,000. That would have to be distributed across the rest of our customers. So to us, that's a real cost. In discussions of that at the Recycled Water Committee, we haven't exactly agreed on that, and that's fine. But if for this project to move forward, all parties are going to have to agree, and to us that's part of our accounting. So looking at the bottom line of this, of these relatively optimistic scenarios in terms of financing, based on Sam's numbers, we have annual costs ranging from about $630,000 to about $680,000. So if we add in the financing payment on a $1.2 million investment in the transmission piece, and, you know, for the moment leaving out any, I think it was like $30,000 a year to operate that part of the system. We'll leave that off for a minute. That would be about $81,000 a year. And we end up with a total of about $760,000 compared to what Ocean Colony Partners has said is their maximum commitment of $525,000 a year. So, as we expressed in 2015 when we presented this pro forma, even given the sewer authority's numbers, this project, at least the phase one part of it, will require a substantial subsidy in order for it to go forward. And we just thought the board should know that, on the order of $250,000 per year above what.
Closer to 3 with realistic financing.
Well, 250 is optimistic. We would say it could be higher. Now, according to the guiding principles, the sewer authority will commit to a number for how much the facility is going to cost. And there may be some conditions on that, but let's say it's $4 million. And They would borrow the money, they would build the facilities, and assuming that they met their obligations, we would make the mortgage payments on the debt required to build the facility. That's what we wrote into our basic terms. So, as long as they perform that, this would be what it costs. There are, it's possible that over time, the maintenance costs would increase, so our operation and maintenance could increase. We think that 270 is end up being a pretty low estimate of operation and maintenance, especially if we want to operate this thing year-round in order to maximize the production of recycled water.
Have they agreed to quality and quantity?
They have used the quality and quantity we specified, and that Kennedy Jenks came up with in their technical memo 1 as the basis for their design and their cost estimates. So yes, they have. As we anticipated back in 2015, there's, in order for this project to proceed, somebody's going to have to come up with the extra $250,000 to probably $500,000 a year. And that's something the board should be aware of. The sewer authority has said, there's no way they're going to contribute to that. I don't think they'll be able to do the project without the sewer authority assuming some risk, because they're going to commit to having the facility perform, and they need to commit to what it'll cost. I don't think that, we haven't really worked out those details, but I don't think that can just be an open-ended, they can't start with $4 million and say, well, oops, it's based on whatever happens, it's now $6 million. I think they're going to have some risk for that. But that's again based on the terms of the agreement we negotiate. I think the district's position would probably be, well, you need to commit to what this is going to cost. You've designed it. It's going on your facility. You should commit to what it's going to cost. And maybe that number isn't $4 million, maybe it's $5 million, I don't know.
And they're facing other unknowns too, in the replacement of their sewer main that leaked into the creek. I mean, do they?
Well, yeah, we're leaving that out of this
So I mean, I'd say there's a
consideration
lot of
for the moment.
budgetary things that they're gonna have to contend with. Long ignored infrastructure improvements are now suddenly on the front burner, potential of maybe fines. I mean, are fines still a possibility for that large sewer leak? So they're gonna have to go back to their ratepayers for significant, rate increases just to cover long ignored infrastructure improvements. So their financial position is.
In looking at this, we're looking solely at recycled water and at the guiding principles. I don't, whatever else is going on at SAM.
There's a lot of budget there's a lot of budget variables going on at SAM. So for them to commit to a few million here, the potential of fines, $4 million there.
The finance plan really doesn't get into how the sewer authority would come up with $4 million. In its history, SAM has never borrowed money as SAM. So the way that SAM finances a project is that each of the member agencies has to borrow an amount of money representing its share, however, or come up with it out of reserves, and they then contribute that into SAM. That's how we did the plant expansion that was built starting in 1996. So the financing plan doesn't address that. For the purposes of this board's consideration of recycled water, we just wanted to bring back these numbers. So I think we need to be aware going forward that this recycled water project in phase 1 is going to cost quite a bit more than so far Ocean Colony has committed to putting on the table. So I don't think that means from the staff standpoint, that doesn't mean the project is infeasible. It means that we'll have to justify to our, I would think we'll need to justify to our customers why it makes sense for the district to invest that kind of money. And I think, from our standpoint, recycled water will be very important to us in the future. And such an investment might be justified. But in terms of how do you direct us for the next steps, you may look at this number and say, we don't know, the next thing we may have to do is see whether Ocean Colony is able to commit to making up that difference. Or you could instruct us to go and start negotiating with the sewer authority staff to develop the details of the agreement that the guiding principles would form a basis for. So those are, that's our update. I think the next, if there is a next step in the project we've been pursuing so far, it's the step we've been saying is the next step for a long time, and that is we need to get the terms that we have established in sort of outline form incorporated into the detail of an agreement that specifies exactly how some of those things will happen. And that's based on what this board has approved. I think that's something we could do at the staff level, but recognize that this is this is going to be the gorilla in the room. That we're heading toward a project that, as we predicted in 2015, will need a substantial subsidy. So with that, I'll let the board.
Ken?
So, kind of where I sit in this situation is this. Sam is pushing for another recycled water committee meeting. I don't really see any value in it. I mean, I think that everything that we've agreed to and everything that we've requested of Sam, they've now produced. They've done the 25% design. They've come up with a financing plan that they think is a viable financing plan. And frankly, we resent the terms of agreement, and we've had no response from them for 3 months. So they've had plenty of opportunity to respond, add to the terms, discuss the terms, whatever. And we haven't really heard anything like that. We're kind of second seat in the process in that it's really hard to get direct information. So it ends up that we get it from watching the video of the meetings or getting minutes, or we're not really fully in the car. We got one leg in and one leg out. So I'm of the opinion of refusing to have another recycle water committee meeting. But I think that we as a district should direct our staff to begin to negotiate with the staff of SAM and try to come up with the terms of what an agreement would really look like in the form of a contract. I think that that's the money that I personally would be willing to put at risk as a member of the board, because in my opinion, if you look 10, 20, 30 years down the line, recycled water, we know, is going to be one of the most important portions of our portfolio. We're in a pretty luxurious position. We've got a great portfolio of water, but I mean, you can just look at the temperatures around the state of California this year and know that, this global warming discussion is real. And as things heat up, it's going to require more water. And as we get more population, it's going to require more water.
Keep paying for it in Half Moon Bay.
But so, in my opinion, that's really the next viable step. And I think that, from my position or from the view that I hold, I think that the only way the project can go forward, frankly, in the near future, would be for Ocean Colony to pony up the whole amount. And I don't think that's going to happen, that they're going to go up 50% above what they've committed to go so far. But I don't know, because we haven't really directed staff to negotiate for that or to present that concept. And so, from my perspective, I'm really to the point where I think we either have to get real. I don't personally feel competent to write a contract between Coastside County Water District and SAM. I certainly don't think that the committee is competent to write a contract. I think sitting around and drafting terms of an agreement would be a ridiculous waste of time, and we can hardly, communicate on things that I think are fairly simple things. But I think if we're serious about recycled water, we're in a position where SAM feels like they've got a plan and a process and a financing plan, and they're ready to look at a process. And there are so many things that have to be worked on simultaneously, like CEQA. They're under the impression we're going to take the lead on CEQA. Well, there's a huge CEQA deal.
I was gonna add that as a time sink for staff.
Grant money. Maybe there really is grant money. I would believe there is grant money out there. But without directing staff to get some assistance on looking for grant money, how do we do that?
Grant money is very expensive, and it's staff time again.
Yeah, but it's not something that I'm gonna figure out how to do it on my lunch hour,
Yeah.
or sit around in a committee with 6 other volunteer public servants and try to do that, or get on a Google meeting, and write documents together about, how we're gonna propose to do that. So I think if we're serious, it's worth the investment to at least see if the terms can be turned into some kind of a formal contract, and what that contract would look like, so we could discuss what that would really be. Because everything else is just kind of like swirling around in the wind. And to sit around in the committee and, have the same discussions, and why isn't it moving forward, and, how serious is CCWD, and, when are you guys gonna come back with a contract, blah, blah, blah. I agree with that. I think that it's really time to look at that. But it is gonna cost money. It's gonna take legal time, it's gonna take staff time. It's in my opinion, Dave is much more, my view, excited about the idea of getting recycled water in the future. My time horizon is 10 years. I don't see it as being something that's being delivered next March. But if it could be, and if there was a customer that would be willing to cover the real costs, and we could help to make that happen for that customer next March, I personally would be in favor of that. But I don't know how to do it without coming up with a document that looks like a contract that both parties can agree to, and start to make real serious attempts at finding financing, or communicating with our customers that it's a really, valuable investment for the future. I believe it is. I think that there'll come a time when that recycled water is so important to the Coastside community that we'll be surprised by that. And I hope I'm alive long enough to see it. But frankly, without making a positive step, like sitting down and trying to negotiate terms, I just think we're wasting time. And, Dave shows up, he's very enthusiastic, Mary shows up, Glenn and I show up. I noticed that Arnie's not here tonight. I think that members of committees should be replaced every 2 years, and it's exactly 2 years for me. So I think Arnie would be a wonderful representative on this recycled water committee, and he won't have any attempt to comment about his appointment. And I think Chris Michelson would be a heck of a good negotiator on this committee, and Glenn has been telling me that he'd like to get a little more sailing time in. But frankly, I really honestly believe in this project. I think it's the right thing to do. I don't think the numbers on the table or the terms on the table are there yet. But I think if the terms and the numbers could come to the table, we would be remiss to not do this for the future of the Coastside. We would absolutely be, in my opinion, short-circuiting this community, and I think that would be wrong. But but like I say, I believe those numbers. I mean, my recommendation in talking to Dave 7 months ago was sit down with Ocean Colony and tell them it's gonna be $1 million a year. It's not 525. So tell them that right away. And if that turns this thing off, then it turns it off, that discussion's over. And every time we talk and another year goes by, we see that it's at least that number, right? Interest rates are gonna stay, they're not gonna stay
That
down.
financing number is already old.
Yeah, interest rates are gonna be going up, cost of construction's gonna be going up. You know, every single thing that we face, inflation, these things aren't gonna get cheaper. And, you know, we requested, through the committee, we want all the recycled water. We want 100% of it. We don't even know what we would do with it yet. But the thing is, we're suddenly gonna enter into an agreement where maybe this thing isn't expandable enough to take 100% of it. Scott Boyd in the last meeting, or somebody reported that they would defer $279,000, I think it was, of cost in treating water and hauling sludge if this project were to go forward, the Ocean Colony portion of it. Well, maybe that's the other $279,000 from 525 up to this number. I don't know. But those are the kinds of terms that I think have to be stipulated, and the best way I know to have that happen is staff. You know, Loman's come to the table, he's worked hard, I think. Boyd's come to the table, he's worked hard. You know, Ruddock's come to the table. I mean, all these people have come to the table and worked hard and diligently to spin this bottle. But I think at some point, you know, we got to fill it up with water and cap it and utilize it, or stop and just say, we don't know how to proceed from this point on.
So, do you therefore support Dave's opinion to have staff move forward on trying to do a set of contract terms with legal help as necessary, et cetera? That's sort of
I think
your position. Okay, no, I was
think
just trying to get to
it's the best way to go.
Okay, so this number 3% is, that's conservative, that's optimistic. It could cost a lot more
We
than
can't
this.
borrow, I wish we could borrow money at 3%.
Okay, look.
Yeah. So it's
The
optimistic.
Recycle Water Committee has done yeoman work, I think almost miraculous work to get this far, in my view, you guys, you, to actually get us to this point. We've been talking about this for 8, 10, 12 years. They did some kind of a thing in the public here in 2003, and you've actually got something hard and tangible in hand here, which is a proposal, 25% design. We've got numbers we can talk to. We have one customer who, talking like go buy some water. I think this is really what I call miraculous, almost. And so I commend everybody who has labored so hard. We always thought we needed to do this. We still think we need to do this, and we still think we need to keep lifting weights to make it happen. I think you guys done great work. I'm not sure it's good to change horses in midstream right now, because you're not gonna have another meeting for a while. You just made that clear. You don't think it's time for another recycled water meeting, so you take a little vacation from that. And we get Dave and legal and others to start banging some agreement stuff down on paper and work toward coming up with a contract. You sent this to them in February, the agreement particulars?
The terms.
And we haven't heard anything.
Nothing.
So now it's time to get serious about that. Okay, I think it's time for us to actually start doing some hard work and making that happen, and investing in what it takes, that's all. They've done this much, you know, got their proposal, their design, we should do our thing now and start seeing if they put their money where their mouth is, everybody, okay? That's my opinion. I won't give up yet,
Thanks,
whatever it
Bob.
takes.
Chris?
So, I mean, how much do we want to spend in time and resources if we can't get an agreement agreed upon?
Well, we
I
gotta
mean-
take it to the next level.
And I
Throw
want
it
to
at it.
see really who's really at risk here. You know, I want that more clearly defined, you know, cost overruns, variables, who really is on the hook here? And back to, you know, what I've always said, where's our customer? You know,
Are you gonna talk to the customer?
you know, I wanna see something signed, you know, a signed commitment from a customer. Pen to paper, you know, approved by legal, that, because right now, we've heard talk of a customer, but I haven't seen a legal document to that effect.
Mhm. No, we have to get
Yeah,
that.
I mean, there are,
We
you
gotta
know,
start,
so I think other parties really need to make a real firm commitment, how much risk they're willing to bear, how much water they're willing to buy, how much they're willing to pay for it, before this takes one step further. Because again, it's looking like this is on the backs of our customers to fill this shortfall, and that's a non-starter here. I mean, I'll tell you, there's one vote, this is a non-starter if any CCWD customer is subsidizing this project. My vote is no. So it has to be subsidy-free. So I want to see some financial commitments and some risk, and on whose shoulders is this risk going to lie? To me, that hasn't been answered yet.
I think that we do need a contract that spells out who's responsible for what, so the risks are cleanly played. I do agree we need a response to our terms. I feel very strongly that this is an important 10 to 15 year project, that we must have this. Every single constituent in Half Moon Bay that I have talked to, every single one has said that this is a no-brainer and they want this. In acknowledging the people I've talked to, their support, which has been unanimous and strong, I am concerned that we aren't the only benefactor of having recycled water available. That the sewer authority is dumping water that isn't suitable to go onto a grass says to me that there's a benefit of the cleanup process to turn this into grass suitable water. And I think that has a cost that is owned by the people who dirtied the water in the sewer. And so I am uncomfortable with our subsidizing this. I think that if, let's just say that this project went ahead with a deficit of 250,000, but that was shared between the sewer and the water, I think that's a more equitable approach than saying the clean water folks pay to clean up water that's been soiled and dirtied. I think that we should very much continue the process of moving forward. I do agree with Ken that the committees that meet have no legal authority to take action on really anything. Well, we can open and close the meeting. But, well, I've done it very well. So I think there would be value to having staff work towards moving some of these details in a, and frankly, one of the things that the committee has accomplished, and I mean all parties coming to the table, all of them have put a political public stamp on saying this is something they encourage and endorse. There have been questions raised by individual entities, and those entities have come forward and signed on. There's been kicking and screaming, to make it happen. But it's really hard to nail down contractual and financial agreements by a committee that's a non-binding group. And what we can take from that group of representatives is they've all said, we want this and it should move forward. So I would have to agree that an excellent next step would be to have staff start to put forward terms, protocol, procedure on how this would pencil out. And I think that we are in a very unique situation to have a general manager who has expertise in both fields. It's very, very rare. I have a lot of confidence in our legal counsel to keep us from going over the deep end on this. Well, there are legal ramifications of an error. We're talking about a different genre of material in sewer than water. And I think that the role of our group has been very much to make sure that this is something that's in the interest of both our constituents, but also the public in general. And I think all of us have expressed that enthusiastically. I do think that we should not shoulder, it should not be us alone. And I do agree the word subsidy sticks in our mouth badly. I realize that's a tall order, Dave, to put forward, but I'm really impressed that we got a lot of very different groups to come to the table and say they wanted this. And it's hard for me to believe that we can't then move that ball forward. I don't think it'll be easy. But that would be my feedback to you, my counsel is how can we help? But I think we need professional help.
And, I mean, based on what Chris was saying, so would we also like staff to begin to negotiate with the only identified customer?
I think it's a relevant conversation. This shouldn't be done in isolation. I think that there's two aspects. One of the things we talk about is the long-term benefits, which are much bigger and broader than one single customer, and we all agree to that. But we, at the same time, can't be exposed that we're making a sweetheart deal for one customer at the exclusion of others. It strikes me that would be a pretty bad protocol to set, and we should be cognizant of that. So there are things, and yeah, I think it's a three-way conversation between sewer buyer and water.
So if I could summarize the direction I've heard, it's to...
Charge bravely forward.
Well, it's to, based on the numbers that Sam has produced and our view of the numbers, to go back to Ocean Colony and see whether they're willing to step up to the shortfall. That's one thing I heard. And then the other is to let Sam know that we believe that the next step should be for our staff to meet with Sam's staff to start working on the terms of a more detailed agreement based on, first of all, the guiding principles, and which everyone has already agreed to.
Yep.
And of course, we'll try to get our basic terms in there. They haven't responded to them yet, but they know what they are. They don't depart significantly from the guiding principles, so I think we know the basis for that discussion. But the second piece, after talking to OCP, is let the SAM staff know that we're ready to sit down and work on a more detailed agreement when they have the authorization to do so from the SAM board. Is that fair?
It is, and one of the things that does close the loop on this, when Ken and I started working, when I became involved, one of the impasses we had was the group was concerned how to handle the finances. And the discussion that the entire group agreed on was that once we had, I'm pointing to the spreadsheet, but once we had the finances understood, that's a great term, thank you. Once we had it understood, we could then start the discussion about what the value to different parts of the community was and who would help carry that weight. And that was agreed as a reasonable discussion at that time point, that once we knew what the costs were, then there could be an allocation of benefit to the community at large. And it may be that this is the juncture at which we then engage the public and say, you know, here's the cost, where's the value, who pays for this? And I think that we as a group, as a political group, have all thrown in our hat to say we support the idea. But I think that if the community itself doesn't feel like they participated in how their money's being spent, I think whether this is financially good or bad, it will have a much lower chance of success if the community hasn't felt that it's something they had a say in. And it may be that as you talk to OCP and talk to sewer, that becomes the genesis of what happens next as we go out to the community. I think that it's important to memorialize that was one of the concepts put on the table, was that we would allocate the benefit after we knew the cost, and I feel pretty comfortable that our cost numbers are reasonably enough known to start the next step.
So there you have it.
Thank you.
Go for it.
Thank you.
Go for it.
Thank you
Yeah.
for persevering.
Yeah, not many men have
All right.
experience in both arenas. Isn't that funny? Yeah.
In the interest of time, we should move with alacrity.
Okay, alacritously moving forward. I do really want to recognize the efforts of our staff in maximizing the local sources. It's something, and we've talked about this before, it was significant in our financial results. Joe Gastino, Sean Donovan, John Davis, all of these guys have really had in their minds all year, we need to emphasize local water, whether it's, you know, keeping Denniston running all the time, and they don't have, it takes extra effort that they don't really, you know, they don't really have to put in, but they know that it's really important to the district. The numbers are good. We produced in fiscal 16, 180 million gallons from local sources, and in fiscal 17, 220 million gallons from local sources. The benefit of 1 million gallons is somewhere between 5,000 and 7,000, depending on where we take it from. So, you know, those are big numbers, and I really hear every day their consciousness of how important this is to the district. It isn't a result that's casually achieved. So I really want to recognize. That, and they've even gone beyond. I mean, now one of our senior operator, Todd Schmidt, who's a PE by the way, has prepared an application to be submitted to the Water Board to remove the 50 turbidity unit constraint on our ability to operate Denniston, and to allow us to go to 75 turbidity units to get more water out of Denniston. So
Bless you.
that's the kind of,
What was your?
We're pushing for 100 MTU.
yeah, 100, okay. So That's an application that has taken a real effort to prepare. They
Can you
didn't have-
quantify the volume
we
of
didn't-
water we could produce if we went that high?
He has, I don't have the number for you right now, but it's significant,
So that,
especially if we ended up the year.
that involves, if we get that, that'll be a significant accomplishment, because it really would be a testament to the confidence that the Water Board has in our ability to run the plant, which we have documented in this application, and
Oh, the application, you mean a paper?
yeah, it's
I thought
a,
it was
we're submitting.
another application like he did on the computer. to
Yeah,
show
we're
us how much
submitting
water. This is an application to the
a
water.
report,
board.
whatever you call, we're submitting.
Petition.
That's a, thought it was another
So-
IAP.
So Dave, I'm,
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's my spiel. I really want to, this has been
Is that
a
a flexible number,
significant.
that 50?
Pardon?
The
No.
50 can be modified?
It can't.
It's hard. It's a
You
hard.
can-
it's in
actually-
your permit.
You can-
Your permit states the operating conditions under
You
which
can-
you're.
You're trying to get a modification. to
Yeah.
the
Right.
Is there a chance
existing
in hell?
permit
Yeah, there
based
is.
on data you propose
Yeah.
to present them
With
to
our
show
plan.
that it's,
Right now,
it meets spec, so to speak, at that new level. I'm
right
just
now,
trying-
at 50, as soon as we cross 50
Yeah.
units, we have to shut down.
Right.
You're trying to
So
get them
if
to
we're
understand
successful-
why.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we're successful with this petition, they'll let us go to 100.
Okay, no, that's cool.
So-
I didn't think you could.
I will offer
great.
as a board member to pay for lunch for the staff. So
Especially if he gets the permit.
you got lunch on me.
Dinner if he gets the permit.
No, I offered lunch.
For the
If you
waiver.
wanted, if you
Is
want to
that,
pony in.
Why, we go to.
Is that every day?
No,
Monday
that's,
through
I'm
Friday?
buying lunch for
Once?
everybody once.
Ah, okay. All right. Thank you, that's all.
No, it says a lot about the dedication and expertise of our employees.
Yeah,
to-
no,
to
it's
feel
really
confident
good.
Enough to, ask for a waiver like this, or.
Yep.
Yeah, wow.
Wouldn't that be something? huh?
Yeah, no, well done. And I'm serious, I'm buying lunch. All right. Joe, you're on.
No, it's Mary. Mary's up first.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I'll be quick. With
What's that
Joe's
word again?
Alacrity.
With Joe's upcoming retirement, we're well into our recruitment process right now for his replacement. We have our, this brochure went out to several hundred agencies and bulletin boards. And so we hope that we could start interviewing in by mid-August.
There's no replacement for Joe.
And Joe has officially and formally announced his retirement today. His last day will be September 29th.
Last day of work, yeah.
Yeah.
First day of retirement is September 1st.
I just have to comment how photogenic our facilities are. I mean, this,
Yeah, I remember.
Because I remember when I came on
Earlier
board, boy,
days.
we had grainy, black and white pictures, about all we would have dared publish, so the fact that we can go four color, our facilities look pretty good, and Joe, thanks for your role in getting our facilities to this condition. I mean,
Been my pleasure.
what a
Well,
difference.
It's an impressive job description, I'll say that for it. Did you do all that stuff, Joe? Did you really?
Yeah.
And more.
Matter
Unbelievable.
of fact, yeah.
Yeah, he does that just before
Very
noon, and then in the
impressive,
afternoon,
huh?
he does all the other stuff.
Joe, I'm sorry to see
Hey,
you go.
this
This is,
Yeah.
you've done a
Drama
great
working
job.
on the
Well done.
side,
I'll
and
still be a
music.
present.
Jesus.
Perfect. No, we do have part-time positions.
Yeah, there's precedence.
Yeah, yeah. Talk to Dave
Well,
about what
help our
happens
budget.
after you've
Let's do
reorganized the
Same amount of work
pantry.
for half the price?
You have it in process.
He's smarter than that.
After the pantry's reorganized, then what?
Do they have a commitment to deliver stuff within a certain timeframe?
Yes.
You know, like,
Yeah, the recruitment closes
we
on,
got 60 days to
Yeah.
get going.
yeah, the recruitment closes on July 23rd.
Oh, okay.
And so we should be able to start screening candidates by the end of the month.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right, thank you.
Now it's Joe's turn.
All right, Joe.
Okay, I think one of the significant things this month is that we've installed 3 sample stations, these new style of sample stations. I'm really jazzed about it. You could spy one over on the corner of Miramontes Point Road and the highway, in that little median strip. They stand about 4 feet tall, and they're almost invisible because they're stainless steel. So they don't really stick out a lot, but it has our logo on it, and they're ergonomically very, very, much better than the old style where you had to stoop down. The old stations are getting pretty ragged. So these are kind of, I really love them. They're gonna be good.
Is it on the, I'm sorry?
On the median there, on the median
Eastern
on the way.
side?
on the-
Eastern median or?
Yeah, on the way up to Moon Ridge.
Okay, right on that other, I
Yeah.
saw them doing the work there, actually.
Yeah.
I saw them doing it recently. I was
Yeah,
wondering.
there's one on Seymour Street
Okay.
too, and then,
I'll run by it.
yeah, so check them out, they're really, really nifty. The only other thing that's worth mentioning is El Dorado Tank 3 recoating project is coming along slow. Although it's the same company that has done 2 of our other tanks, their supervision on this job is not up to their former standards. And I've let them know, and I don't know if we're gonna be using these people anymore. But we're getting along, and it's probably gonna go over the time allotment, even with the change orders, the extra days allotted by the change orders. And so we may pursue liquidated damages. I have to talk with Dave about that.
Thank you, Joe. All right.
Disappointing.
Mary? I'm sorry, wait, Kathleen? I'm starting to just past my bedtime.
I'll be quick, So, the district has distributed its annual consumer confidence report. We call it the water quality report, so everyone should have gotten one in the mail. This is for calendar year 2016. We used the United States Postal Service, every door direct mail. It went to PO boxes and mailboxes in 94019 and 94018 zip code. And then for our account holders who are outside our service area, we did first class mail, mailed them a copy. So approximately 9,700 reports were mailed out. And you'll notice it's much more than our number of accounts. It's because with it getting delivered to everyone who has a mailing address. So like for Kenyatta Cove, it's one customer, but every user got their copy. So the report was translated into Spanish. It's available on our website in both the Spanish and English version. And some more great photos of our
Yeah.
Facilities, yeah, no, I tell you, this, couldn't have done it.
Have we
20
done
years
that
ago.
the fold open one before?
Yes,
Yeah.
we've done that now, I think, 3 years.
Oh, we haven't, because
Yeah.
it just seemed new.
Yeah.
Look good.
It's a very nice piece. I've gotten a lot of
Yeah.
comments
Yeah,
on
no,
it.
it looked good.
People open it, actually.
Yeah.
It's hard to understand what's inside, but they open it,
Oh,
the
it's-
pictures are really
it's
nice.
awesome.
It's like
Yeah.
opening
Box set.
Pandora's box.
Okay.
You want me to sign it?
Yeah, why don't you? That'd be good.
Huh?
We won't go
I printed those out for you, so.
Well, you know, I couldn't find him in my
You
email.
wonder what's gonna
And
jump
I
out.
remembered I
No,
had
it's fine.
sent it
And
to
the data was good
UPS,
too, even
and I
better.
said, please
Yeah.
print
Right.
3, was
They
it?
were
Kathleen,
next-
thank you.
Yes.
So I know, I figured that out.
Good job,
Okay.
yeah, great.
Because
Dave,
I
thank
thought
you.
for a minute there,
Anything else?
do this again, but then I
I'll get it to Bosco.
We have
great, thank you.
Yeah.
Request for
meetings,
future,
request for future
future meetings.
Not
Chris,
this
you'll
time.
work with them for the HR committee.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We're both of us are the heavy travelers,
Perfect.
but we'll figure
All
something
right.
out.
Perfect. Do we need anything else?
What? The heavy
They got
travelers.
the HR, yeah, they'll arrange a meeting. We closed? All right, we're done.
Which meeting?
9:16.
Not exactly a record.